But I'm happy to be able to walk around and be able to drive the car.
Yeah.
Hopefully you've seen the pavement by now. There is some pavement in town.
Saw Peloton.
Yes, yes. I know people were calling every day asking in anticipation of the pavement going down there. A couple that comes in every day. So we have our Finance Committee meeting. This is Thursday, October. Meeting started at 4. I apologize, we were a few minutes late. And so our first item is sign the warrant. So we're looking through the bills now. And there'll be a couple more warrants before the council meeting. There'll be small ones dealing with state, some of the state items and mandatory requirements. And the second item for the regular Finance Committee meeting in which we check up on things is an update on the 2019 Capital Improvement Plan. And so these are the projects that were either funded by tax dollars because they were in the capital plan, or they're items that were funded or to be funded by the loan, which is part of the capital improvement plan. So we went and got a loan for $706,000, of which approximately $206,000 are a variety of projects, and $500,000 is our first foray into paving with a large loan here to try to get caught up on some of the pavement that needs to be put down. And so the paving is ongoing. Roads were rebuilt and fixed up and grades put on so they have proper slope and everything. The most important part of any road project is drainage, and so in places in town, like many other towns are, size of the roads get higher than the road at points. So Public Works has been working for over a month, shaping, bringing gravel in, and fixing the roads after they did brush removal. So Snake Road, Peltomer sections of both Snake Road and Peltomer, as well as a small section of Detroit Street Avenue were just paved. So they're working away on that.
Has Detroit Avenue been done already? Yeah, done.
It just was done.
It was?
Yeah, you can see all the black marks everywhere. They just were there. So that is good, and this was a, weather like this is still good weather for paving, so that has worked out well. The Public Works woman did, have to keep reminding the paving company to get there because they got behind in another town. Had contractual items come up there in terms of getting things done or being penalized. So I did have to contact them and be rather stern about coming here. And I, because we waited and waited and kept asking, and just finally I contacted them and told them they had to get going. And they came the next working day and brought all the equipment and everything. And then started in as soon as they could. There's been a lot of rain, so we have to avoid that as much as possible. So that has been ongoing. We got bids for the roof for the municipal building and fire station, and that was under bid. And so that will be on the agenda for the council meeting next week. We talked with CO Beck and Company, which is the low bidder. So that is under budget. It will be an excellent job. They want to do it late spring, as soon as you get out of the winter, as soon as enough snow's off. They looked at the roof, and they were the ones that came and did core testing to make sure it hadn't failed underneath and that things were dry, and they were pleased with what they saw. And we asked them if we'd be okay over the winter, and they said they don't see anything that shows that there'll be an issue. Likely, we plan to be a few years ahead of any problems. So we'll have a contract on there and a bid to approve. So that is working out well. The other projects were overbid. And these were items that were outside projects to the fire station, masonry work, which unfortunately is always very high and troublesome to get masons to come here for the work that's needed to be done. So we'll rebid those. The good thing is that we have the bid specs. We won't have to wait for Public Works to come back next year or anything. We'll just put those out once we get into like February, which is a good time to bid projects out because people need work and they want to line it up. And we'll contact more companies this time and try to figure out some better places to put the bids. But when it went out, was when Public Works Foreman was able to write up the bid specs, and so went out pretty late, went out in July, and we did get, bids from reputable companies, but they were very high. The bid for the work to the walkway was extremely high, but the price that we had put in the budget was for Public Works to do that work. We never had planned that it was going to be contracted out, so that would be an issue anyway. So in the capital improvement plan for 2020, I did put an additional allocation of funding in there from one of our economic development sources. So you'll see that when you see your budget books, to try to help that out. It's still way off from the price that we were given, but that price is too high anyway.
But does that mean that Public Works won't do it, or will they do it?
Well, Public Works said that they were too busy, and they have so many projects. If they did it, it would work out really well. We can try to bid it out again and see what we'll do. But this time we've got the bid documents and we've already bid out some items. So I'm setting up the timetable so all the projects will start a lot earlier, so that everything will go very quickly for next year, because we've got the rhythm of how to do all this. We got all the loan documents if you wish to get another loan, which I think you will, for paving, and to pay it off by using the Pittsfield Future Fund funds, which we talked about. You can get a couple of years of loans, but there's only so much that we can do here. You can't use the monies indefinitely for a loan after loan after loan, year after year, because you run out of money. And we don't want to impact the tax dollars, which is already happening here. So for 2019, things are going well. The vast majority was the paving, and so we paved the worst roads. And I think that you'll probably, want to talk about which roads to pave for the allocation that we'll put in for 2020, just so that we're ahead of the curve this time, like Higgins Road, for example, and perhaps Central Street, because that has deteriorated extensively very fast. It held up for years, but now the top pavement, the overlay is coming off. So that might be one you'd want to do.
West Street's pretty nasty too.
Pardon?
So West Street's pretty nasty too.
Yeah,
I don't know.
West Street
there's
is
only so much
always
we can
been,
do. So.
Yeah. West Street's always been an issue. In looking at the different bid projects that you had an engineer come in and rebuild that whole thing. And when I arrived, that was very bad. So I don't know if the materials they used weren't good, or you could only dig down so far and there's some problem underneath there.
I think if anything is done on West Street, at least the catch basins should be fixed so the water doesn't run around them. They're this high above the road, so the water doesn't go in it, it runs around them, and then you end up with problems in the wintertime when it freezes. And
yeah, that's on the Public Works list. Yeah, definitely.
If nothing else gets done to that road, at least those should be done.
Yeah. So, Catherine, just a question on the projects, the repointing masonry in the walkway that didn't get done or won't get done this year. The funds that we got from the loan will be committed to those for 2020, correct?
Yeah, we can carry forward any funds that are for a project that has not been completed, and in this case, we did try to put these out, and somewhat got, outrageous prices.
Okay.
Maybe because those are the only people that would bid on it, maybe that truly is their cost, or maybe it's, later in the year, and they wanted to see how much they could make for a profit. So we don't know the real reason, but we'll put them out again and see. But yes, you can carry forward any funds that are for a capital project or another type of project, as long as we had listed it in the budget, which we did.
Okay.
Absolutely no issue with that.
Question being that going forward for 2020, are we going to commit, are you proposing to commit additional funds to those projects?
The only project that I would do that for is the walkway, because that price was the price if Public Works did it, and they can always do the projects less expensive. If they're regular type of work, they can do.
Yeah.
We've always been able to do the prices a lot less than the contractors. So that would be the only one. The other ones I think will turn out fine. And you had mentioned at the last meeting, you know, we have savings in one area, like on the roof, and we'll have small allowances just to put into their contract for the roof to make sure we're covered.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a huge area that they looked at and they found a little deterioration, so we would want to, you know, focus on that so we could get that done and not have to do a change order and everything in the middle of it, but just to have an allowance in case. So I talked to CO of that company, and they're a very conservative company and very, you know, they do an excellent job. That if they say you should have an allowance, then you should have one. They did the roof to the bathhouse, which was a project they did with Chimbro, which was a donation of the labor.
Okay.
So they did a good job. So that would be the only one, would be the back walkway. The other projects should fetch a better price, and if not, we'll have to figure out why.
Okay.
But if we start early enough, we can bid them out.
All right.
So that's pretty much the 2019 capital improvement plan. Of course, the airport project, we did get the commitment from the federal government that they would fund the 8-bay or it might have to be a 6-bay nested T hangar, of which 90% of the funds would come from the federal and state government. 5 would come from the town, 90% would come from the federal government, 5 from the state, and 5 from the town. That's the formula for next year. Formula changes off and on. It used to be 2.5, and then it turned out to be 10, and so now the state has 5% for the project, 90% from federal, and 5% from the town, which is very good considering the size of these airport projects.
Okay.
So any other questions on 2019?
Is the new phone system up and running?
That was ordered, and actually it's supposed to show up tomorrow.
Okay. To install?
To bring the equipment here and to start the installation.
Okay.
You have to have approval to do something called porting the numbers.
Yeah.
So they have to come over from the telephone company. That's pretty much, if there's a hang up, that will be it.
Okay.
Getting the numbers moved over. But the equipment was all here. They had that on in their inventory. I think they only had to order a couple of things.
Okay. And the training will be done by them as well, or?
They will do training, yes. In fact, they'll do training the number of times that we need it. That's part of the agreement, is that they will, anything that we have, they will come back. And the gentleman had stopped in so many times trying to sell the system to us. We expect to see him. He's going to be with the company until he retires in a couple of years. So we expect to have really good service.
Okay. And the video system, is that in and functioning?
Michael has not completed that project, and so that is on his list of projects to do.
Okay.
It's partially in.
Partially
He
in.
had to order little parts, but they came in a while ago. So that is on his priority list of getting that done.
Okay.
Which we could have used that for something, trying to figure out what went on with a project, so that would have been helpful. We could have looked back on the video. So I can see a number of good uses for that.
All right, and the audio, is that built into the video system?
The audio is built in, and so when we got that, I asked him to get something that, you know, if we wanted to have the audio, we could have it. If not, then, you know, we wouldn't use it. So he has researched that, and there should be no issues, you know, in terms of security or privacy because of the way it's set up. Okay. So that should be fine, and probably will be helpful.
So neither of them are live right now?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
It's up. People think it's live, but it's not.
Hey, you know, some stores keep the cameras there, right, and they've been broken for years, right. So, you know, it's a deterrent in and of itself. So. Yeah,
there's one over by the police department. Before I arrived, the town had gone out and got bids, and I'm not sure how this came about, but it was some massive cost, and so we never went ahead and did it. because the council decided not to. So that camera's been out there all this time.
Huh.
So we fixed it so it looked like it was, you know, in action. You know, put the wires away and everything.
Now, is that a separate system that's not integrated into the computer system for the office?
You can make it so it will go into Michael's computer and be secure in a separate drive. He set up a separate place like he did for the videos here. He puts them into a separate drive, only he has it. We have the password written down for the safe.
Okay.
But
all right.
he has access, nobody else goes into
Is
it.
is it all digital recording? Do you know, or is it on a tape?
I think it's digital,
Would
but
be-
I would have to double check that. This is not my area of expertise.
Okay, all right. You know, I don't know about the other counselors, but, you know, I'd like to see, you know, that in operation from the perspective of, you know,
Oh, of course.
you know,
yes.
what we're seeing, and, you know,
Oh, yes.
you know, a couple of people who know that the system is going in have a couple of neighbors I was talking to and telling them about some of the updates that are going on. And they were concerned about the privacy issue with respect they understand the video because all the banks have them and everything. You know, it's not a problem. But they were concerned about the audio with respect to you go in, and not so much discussing specifically, you know, I've been assaulted or whatever, you know, but more, you know, the privacy issue regarding the folks, like doing a car registration, okay? You know, we give the ladies in the office, you know, our mileage, and we tell them that what car we have, et cetera, you know, and they can look it up. And I don't know how anybody else has found it, but, you know, and certainly for expediency, they'll basically say, you know, that'll be $245.12, and, you know, what bank is that on and what check number, you know. And a couple of people have questioned the concern about that audio being captured with respect to giving out its financial information, and I, you know, and it being captured. You know, we all do it, you know, and it might be worthwhile. And I know you've got the little signs on the doors, okay?
When it's operational, there'll be big signs.
And it probably should be one on the counter as well.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Yeah, and then they were concerned about that, you know, and has the town attorney signed off on that with respect to it being legitimate and legal and everything else? And
Well, we don't run everything past the town attorney, but Michael did do research, and I mean, this goes on at all kinds of different locations and everything. The people, when they give out their information, I mean, there could be 15 people standing there that listen to it or hear it.
Yeah.
And when we get the checks, we have copies of the checks for a period of time that are locked in the safe, so we have their financial information anyway. But it's secure as it is on the, you know, when the video's up. But the videos, you know, the video and the voices, you know, this goes on at many locations.
Yeah.
With
yeah.
maybe more confidential information than we would have.
Yeah, you know, it's kind of like, you know, our because, you know, and we always backed up our information in the office, you know, and, you know, if everything was cool the previous day, we would basically tape over the tape the next day, you know, or, you know, we had a week's supply, you know, so I was just kind of wondering how it was going to be done, you know, because they're not going to be reviewed except if there's a question.
Correct, yes, that would be correct. And it may be that when he's working on the policy, that it will just be taped over in a month or so, you know.
Yeah, I was going to ask how long we have to keep these. I mean, obviously they're public documents, like hospital stuff, we have to keep 7 years.
Well, that's,
How long do we have to keep these?
well, we've got to keep source documents 7 years, you know, in
Right.
medicine, so.
Yeah, so this is a project that Michael is working on, and he is behind on it, and he will finish it. So that we'll have the procedures, we'll have a procedures or policy listing for internal controls for the office, like the other ones that we have.
Can you give the council an update before it goes fully live?
We can do that because he's still working on it. He's away now, and so that
Yeah.
won't happen on Tuesday.
Well, that's fine, but I think it would be informative and, you know, useful to kind of put it out there, you know.
Yeah, and if people had a concern about that, I mean, we can make up, you know, a little card that they write this on and give it to us at the counter, and then they would have, you know,
Yeah.
then it wouldn't be said verbally.
It's probably not necessary to go to that extreme, you know. I just think that the question was raised by, you know, a couple of neighbors that I was talking with.
Oh, no,
the
it's a
other
good
day, so.
question. I mean, we're fortunate here to have the safe and enough room, but, you know, I'm familiar with towns that leave out this check information just as part of their regular records, and, you know, and so we secure it, you know, ourselves, and so the video would also be secure too.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, 2020 budget process. So each year the budget process becomes more and more difficult, and we are in the second of our transitional year in which it's the prerogative of the council to put the items in the budget that the departments, you know, show that they need, which of course could be quite a bit. Because over the years it's been very conservative, and it's been conservative because the town, for a number of reasons beyond the regular towns that had issues in 2009, when the economy fell through, you know, and the state revenue sharing was less and less from the state. We got extra state revenue sharing called Rev 2, so we, as a service community, were getting a high percentage of state revenue sharing, which then we didn't get. So we were able to use our internal resources to keep going, cut back, but keep on going without too much impact. And so those resources, you know, slowly came to an end, and fortunately we were able to get, as a miracle, the main purse monies that we used to call up on, you know, and we'd get the paperwork and say, you know, all this money is in the account, you could never use it, can we have some of it back? And they of course always said no at the state level, and then the state was audited, I guess by the right people and the right type of audit, and it was determined that many towns had an excess, so we got the money back. And so fortunately we didn't just spend it all, which was one of the items that could happen. And so now we're spending part of it to use toward debt service, and of course using it as the match for the main purse, which is a retirement program that many of the employees are in. One item we're finding with the allocation that we made separate for the main purse is that we had hoped that that would last 7 years, and so that is not going to, with all the new police officers being hired. They're all taking the main purse, every employee that's hired, versus what used to happen. They did not take the main purse as a retirement, so there was no match required. You might have if you changed over 5 years and, I don't know, you changed 4 employees or 5 employees, one would take main purse. They're all taking it now. So the match monies are going down. So we'll have to look at how we would like to address that in terms of setting another allocation off, or just using the big main purse fund that we're going to use for the match for the debt service, just make the allocation to pay for that directly from that, because we had set up a separate CD, kept that separate, wanted to make sure we were covered, didn't spend all the money, because it basically was retirement money. So we should always match the employees, you know, their labor and their cost has a certain match component, and the match components have drastically gone up to beyond what they had anticipated over the next 5 years. The percentage has gone up considerably. So that will be an item that we'll ask during the budget process. It's an in-out, like a few items are. We put it in as an expenditure, and then it has on its revenue page, it has the same amount. So it's an in-out coming from a special fund. So that special fund is going to be zero during this budget year. So we may want to set more monies in there, or just say that every year we'll just take the allocation that we need out of the big account, which was the $1.5 million that we have committed the debt service to. So our first debt service payment for the $706,000 loan at the 3.29% interest rate will come up as interest next May. And so that will be a principal payment and an interest payment, and I'm budgeting around $100,000 for that, a little bit under that.
Total?
For the principal and interest that will come out next year in 2020. So that too is an in-out. The monies will come from the special account, will not come from taxpayer dollars at this point. So we have a lot of capital needs that have been brought in, and Public Works has come in again to ask for the original amount of the paving, which I'm not sure how you could get all that background work done to do that much paving in the year. So you would cut that in half. And so I've listed everything that people have asked for, but you will need to do some trimming of the 2020 CIP because it's very large. And there's quite a few reasonable items in there too, based upon what we talked about last year, and a few new items came up that people have asked for. There's a lot of additionals too, huge. I'm still working on that part, but there is a major increase proposed to the budget. I never had those. As Bob knows, years and years and years, we never had those. So we definitely have that again this year. So there'll be some trimming needed, definitely. And probably we haven't hit everything that would need to be done, but you never do. It's a town and it's a budget, basically. But we're very fortunate to have those main purse monies. That is, really a saving grace here.
How long is the current loan for? Is it
the current loan, the new loan is 10 years.
10 years. Okay.
And you'd have to by doing the 10-year loan, we're able to do it in the commercial sector, which turned out to be extremely easy beyond going to the main bond bank. I mean, we still wouldn't have the monies. We still wouldn't have the monies until the 24th or 23rd of the month, which would have meant, internal borrowing, and that might have been difficult. The tax money's coming in very slowly here, but hopefully it'll pep up.
Should have a good couple of weeks.
Yes, we should. In which I will pay my taxes too.
Me too.
Hopefully mine already paid.
We better go look.
No, I'm sure they paid it.
Yeah, you never know. So you'll get your budget books on Friday. It may be in the evening, but I'll be at your places by 8 o'clock at the latest, still working on it. If you go upstairs, you'll see paperwork everywhere. All the parts of the budget are all piled around, getting ready for the little books. But I'm still working on several components to try to cut it down. I always go through the budget, and I always, until last year, was able to cut it down. It's just you can't do it now. So that's where we are. Any items of interest financially, or?
I can think of.
Yeah, I didn't plan a lot of items because we're working away on the budget here and the council package.
There's a big, is it a chock full council meeting next week?
It'll be an interesting council meeting. We have the roof bid, which is that's a good bid and good discussion. We have, if it works out, a presentation on the energy needs of the town and how we could do the performance contracting, everything. We're still waiting to see if we're gonna have some assistance on that, based upon scheduling. That was something that didn't get done before Michael left, so I'm working on that. That could be quite interesting. We will have an agenda item to deal with filming at the theater. We've been approached by a company to do some filming, and as part of that, they will do a fundraiser for us and free promotion and everything. So we would be part of their TV show, basically. So that would be quite interesting. It's based upon Maine, and we've done some checking, and that does sound very good. We'll have to get highly organized for our interviews and everything. We're getting ready for Community Service Day, which has been moved to Halloween, so that'll be quite interesting. All the MCI students will be running around on Halloween doing their projects. One of their projects is going to be at the theater. They're going to do some work there, as well as the parks, and reuse building is always a good item. So we'll have discussions on that. So the agenda's not that long. It does have a few interesting items on it.
When does the brush pile down at the transfer station close? Is it this month?
It does close this month. He keeps it open as long as he can. It will depend on the weather, how wet it gets, and when the company's coming to chip. If they're not going to chip this year, you can just keep it open as long as weather permits. But if people do go down there during, it's really, really wet or it's icy, that's just not good. We did have it all rebuilt, and we put the materials in there into the road base, so it's got some strength and everything from the materials that we had, but it would need to be shut down. He usually doesn't set a particular date. You can say a date, but they try to keep it open as long as possible. Okay. And as soon as you announce it, of course, people start rushing there with their brush and everything.
And the reuse center is open till the end of the month?
Yes, that'll be till the last Saturday based upon the weather, and the weather seems to be doing pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll do a reminder on that too, because it's coming right up the end of October. So this is really good. It's taken a lot out of us to get the budget into the shape it is with all the new documents and everything, but I'm tweaking the documents. I think that the book will work really good. I've got the history in there, so you've got the capital improvement plan, all the history from the past, so you can see what went on, and then you got your own section. So with all the documents, I've figured out how to revamp them to make them easy to input into. So next year it should be even easier.
Okay.
But currently our CIP is up to, for the 10-year period, because I took out the history year and put that into a separate document so it doesn't look like it's part of it, $25.9 million, which of course not everything on our CIP gets done, because it's too much, but it has everything in it that people have asked for. That was
that's
reasonable.
A 10-year plan, though, right? That's not
It's a plan, 10-year plan. Yep, this is true. You just move out a year. And before, I always had the history in the capital improvement plan itself. So I made a history document. So each year that we complete goes out of the CIP. So instead of, like having a separate column that has the 10-year and the 5-year, which is good to have, and the history is in a separate document away from the 5 and 10.
Does that include paving?
Yes, all the paving's in there.
Okay.
Yeah, it was pretty sketchy for 2029. There's not a lot that people put in. The fire chief made sure he got all of his engines and tankers in there, though. He did very good. So that's all that I have, because we're working on the budget.
Okay.
All right, good. If we're all set, we can adjourn.
Yeah.
Motion we adjourn.
I second it, third it, and vote for it.
Okay. Yes, and shortly Pete can do that too. And I made a budget book for the new to-be counselors too, and extras. I've got quite a few extras going. I figured it would be a big budget year. A lot of people would want to look at it.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
See you, Pete.
See you.